named Jimmy L.B. Howe from the state of Maine, and he wishes his best regards to all of you tonight on the 22nd annual convention of Bordeaux wine enthusiasts. And thank you for everything. So, for those, we have many people who are new here tonight, and we have many people who have been here for literally 22 years. And for those of you who have been here longer, you know that this is the moment when we give our sort of sentimental speech. And we have a fellow from up in Quebec City, Nicolas Maltese. He has messaged me, and he gives his warmest regards from Quebec and all of his love. Nick was one of the very first participants in our very first convention of BWE back in Chicago in 2001. And that was our first convention after we formed our group in February of 2000. And we all know this is an incredibly special group. And sometimes we have 20 plus people in the room. Sometimes we have 100 plus people in the room. But we are a group that has stayed together for now going into our third decade, through all of the travails of everything we've experienced in the world. And we've had conventions in different cities. The very first was in Chicago, then we were in Napa, then New York in 2003. And we've been in Dallas and Miami and San Francisco and Sonoma and France a couple of times. And London.
Well, we haven't yet, but
Chicago, Denver. I'm sure I'm missing one or two. Dallas. Washington. We've been to Washington, D.C. many times. And, it's, I'm just, a humble lawyer from Maine, and I just am absolutely amazed at the incredible friendships that we've had over the years. We've had people who have had children, people who have had deaths in their families. We've had people that we've very, very close friends that we've lost. We lost Dennis Bates early on, who was just a major participant in our site. And then, of course, Papa Doc, John Dawson, who we were very, very close to. We lost him a few years ago. And in the meantime, we've had people who have had babies and grandchildren. And it's been just an enormously rewarding and wonderful experience. And I can never let any of these post-convention speeches pass by without acknowledging my two friends, Bill Johnson and Jan from College Station, Texas, who I'm just so close to because, they've been there from day one. I just feel like I have to sort of repeat what happened on the morning of February 26, 2000. I woke up, and this was sort of still the early days of the internet. The iPhone was still about 8 years away. People weren't transferring photographs back then. You really have to go back 22 years in time. And I woke up one morning and MSN said, you can create your own website. And it created this, it had this little sort of blog type function where you could post something and people could respond. And I thought this would be really neat if, we created, you could post what you thought of an 89 Lynch and people could respond. And that's what we did. And I thought we'd have like 6 people who would be part of our little club, And within 48 hours, it just grew exponentially. And Bill was one of the very first, and he brought in Jan, aka Lucy, and then Michael Palmieri, who's here tonight, was one of our first members in that 48-hour period of, I always refer to it as Genesis. And I was gonna get to you. Winona Chief, with Marjorie, and it just grew. It was like it's like the Beatles. We just were like in the right place at the right time. Seriously, because within a year, we felt like we had this connection. There was something, and we had never met. Nobody met each other, but all these faceless people met in Chicago in a year later, February of 2001. We didn't know what each other looked like. We didn't talk to we didn't know what our voices sounded like, but we just met. About, I think it was 27 of us, about this size of a group. And we just instantly bonded. And it was just like, it was magic. It was a spark that has lasted through, terrorist attacks and financial crisis and, you name it, a political crisis and all the travails of the world. And we have this oasis here that we can always come back to, no matter how crazy our days are, whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or financial or whatever, you can always come back to BWE, and you're just dealing with normal people who are friends, and we see each other once a year or sometimes for longer periods, and it's like we saw you yesterday. And it's wonderful. It's just, I don't know. I'm amazed by all of it.
Here.
The what? Yes, and I was just going to actually get to that. And by 2003, a couple years later, was by then 9/11 had happened, and that was kind of actually an event that had impacted DWE. I was actually posting on DWE that morning, that horrible morning, with Michael P. And we were just communicating back and forth, and then all of a sudden we said, whoa, something terrible has just happened. And the internet shut down, and Michael said, we were instantly, living life in real time. And we committed ourselves at that point to get involved with New York City. And by 2003, we had our major 2003 convention. We had over 100 people there. We had the media following us. Rudy was in the room. Rudy was sitting right next to me.
Rudy Giuliani?
No, not that Rudy. It was a different Rudy. Rudy was sitting right next to me. He was very nice young man. He handed me a DRC,
That's the RDC, sorry.
Yeah, right.
Trying to figure out if you were good.
Might not have been fake.
And the anonymous benefactor Tom Weddle brought 36 bottles of 1982 Bordeaux at his cost. And it was one of the most epic moments with Gail. And yes, let's. I'll always. I even had Robert Parker himself acknowledging us for that. But anyway, so now we've moved along through the years and the decades, and now we're all a little. What's that?
So imagine you're there. You're like a wine. Sorry, my back's a little. You're a wine lover and Bordeaux lover, and there's this Bordeaux wine enthusiast site, and people are posting these notes and so forth, and you are as well, and you're sharing comments and identifying similar kinds of tasting notes with certain wines, and this connection of who is. Jim likes this kind. I understand his notes now better, just like you're looking at critics' comments, right? Compared to your own. And then all of a sudden, I know none of these people. Nobody knows any of these people. They say, we're going to have this convention in Chicago. Please mail your payment to this guy who you don't know, right? Because the guy's name on the website is, XYZ.
What's up?
Right? Is what's up. Exactly. That's his name. And now you're mailing a check to some guy by the name of Ben Nelson, who you have no idea.
Yeah.
And then you buy a plane ticket from California to Chicago and you book a hotel. And then the morning of, you're supposed to show up with your two expensive, of course, Bordeaux bottles, and give it to some guy in his hotel room at 10 a.m. And you knock on the door, and the guy opens the door, and he's in his underwear, unshaven. He looks like a hungover, college kid. Street bum. And that's where it's supposed to be. So you give him the wine, and then, 7 hours, 10 hours later, whatever it is, you go up to the 32nd floor, whatever the Hancock building is. I forget, 58. Thank you. And then you walk in thinking, is this going to be an empty room and just a scam? Some bum got my wine and some other guy got my money, but indeed, these people were there and they were amazing, like tonight.
He's not exaggerating. That's exactly the way it went.
That was the early days. Am I the bomb in this?
That's the thing.
Oh, they were all
offline.
they were all mother rapers and father rapers.
Yes.
Okay, so
He's not exaggerating.
So I first showed up at one of these things in Chicago in
that was Earl
2004
Guthrie, actually.
with a very similar circumstance. People that just were names on the internet, and it's like, I'll just show up there, and it's like, oh, by the way, and so it's like, so I went to the dinners on the Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday night, and it was just like, oh, it was so easy. These were all people that I felt totally at home with. It was not like it was strange at all. It was like, oh yeah, you just talk to the random person that happens to be sitting next to you, and it's like, oh, it's like you have these conversations, and it's like, oh, this is great. It's wonderful. It's just like the first time I met these two people here. It's like, it was like, no, there's nothing strange about that. These are real, normal, interesting people. And it was just like, that is exactly what it was like with everybody that you met.
From the internet.
And it's just because people would have all these horrible stories about things that happened on the internet. But it was like, but it was wine people, and it was like everything was like, oh, this is cool. It's like, I heard Harry Cantrell's name for 10 or 15 years before I actually met him, but it's like,
And
oh,
he's so sorry.
no,
But it all works out.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's I can't really explain the chemistry and the dynamic. Harry's been there around since day one, almost, right? Yeah, and others as well. And so now, as we've gone through the generations, we've got a newer group, and that includes I refer to him as Young Joel.
Okay, turn.
My vice benevolent dictator was not here tonight. He had to bow out at the last minute, David, because of health reasons. But certainly Joel has been a major contributor. Marcus, so anyway, Gail came up with this great idea the other Thursday night. She says we got to give Joel a little gift for everything that he's done. This is not, we know, some of us who have organized events know that these are not
I bought the bag.
easy things.
I take credit for the
This is
bag.
Gail bought the bag, and we got a nice little bottle of wine. It's a little high in alcohol for you, Joel, but
2010 Shoreline window?
it's a 2010.
It's a 2007
And it's close to
Chevy
wow. It's like you know us or something.
We
All right,
people
here.
on the
Oh,
internet. I'll
go ahead,
right
go
now.
ahead.
Thank you,
Just
thank you.
unveil it
Thank you very much.
And seriously,
All right.
right? Almost.
There we go. No. This is good.
It's a 15% alcohol.
Thank you. The guys didn't want to buy it back.
Thank you very much. That's very nice of you.
Yes. So, Joel. No, seriously. seriously, Joel, immense thanks for everything you've done
Yes,
here.
here, here.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Joel.
I'll say a thing or two. You know, I love that you guys appreciate me for this, and I'm happy to do it. I love to do it. This is a lot of fun, and you guys have been.
Say that after 10 years.
I'm saying it now
After 30
2 or 3,
years,
so
20 years.
call me on that in 7 or 8 more. Yeah, that's fine if you want. But it's kind of like a family. It's like this whole little. Like there's all the forums, there's the wine berserkers, there's all the places, and Bordeaux Wine Enthusiasts is a little bit more like a family, and it's just great. We don't always love each other. We fight a little bit, but it feels more intimate in a good way. And you guys have brought me in, and it's propelled my wine love so much more quickly than I would have even expected myself. And so Jim's been a big part of that, and invited me in and all these events, and just talking on the internet. Like I'd only Zoomed with Michael P. and Nolan. Like, hey guys, I'm gonna be out in Napa. Like, let's go see you guys. And I know Jay's not here, but I go see him, and my sister lives right 10 minutes from Jay, and I go see them, and it's just great, and it's just kind of more like a family, and we all have our similar interests. And we were talking about this at our table. Would we have been friends or met otherwise outside of? Probably not, and that's actually really cool. If anything, that's really cool. And if anything, we develop friendships with people that we wouldn't have been otherwise. We find commonalities, and we're actually friends even outside of wine with all of you. And so it's been great to invite a few of our usual DC crew to kind of enjoy to join with us tonight, and that's Eric and Jim and Brian and Dave, and and it's been great. Peter, of course, and it's been great. And so it's good to combine a lot of things. So I thank you guys all for coming out, and I'm more than happy to take care of the organizing and stuff like that. It's just totally worth it. It doesn't even rate to me. So in terms of that, so appreciate you guys all coming out, and thank you for this. It's
Thanks,
very
Joel.
nice. So.
You're welcome.
Young Joel, there we go.
We even have people from Columbus, Ohio.
Chris, of course, can't forget
Yes.
Chris and Marcus. I'm sorry, Chris and
That's
Marcus
right.
are like part of our usual. They're so usual part of our DC crew. I don't even think to mention this. There's part of our crew like that.
Actually, I went to a Zacky's dinner or a Zacky's tasting in downtown DC. What was it, about 5 years ago, Joe?
No, less than 3.
It was like 3 or 4 years ago.